Hello and welcome to Wicklow Good News with me, Jillian Godsil. Today my guest is the lovely Aisling Reynolds, who has just launched this most amazing business and art project and passion all rolled into one. So welcome to the show, Aisling.
Thank you, and thank you very much for having me.
Well, do you know what? We've been chatting quite a bit before we started recording because it was so interesting. Tell me just a little bit before we talk about your project, which is I'm blown away by it. It's beautiful. But let's start with your background, with your career. So when you left school, you went into computers.
That's right, yeah. When I was in school, I was always really arty, and I loved creating stuff, and I created like theatre and design and costumes and makeup design, and I definitely had, my heart was around art, and I had applied for a portfolio course, and unfortunately I was rejected from that. My portfolio wasn't good enough, and I kind of just closed that down then in my head. And I came home, and my parents they were on the ball a bit, and they had kind of determined that computers was a good future to go into. And I was good at maths, and so they said, maybe you should try computers. I think secretly they were delighted because they felt, sure, there's no money in art anyway, and we'll set our sail that direction. So I went and did a degree in computer science, and then from there went to work in IT. So I stayed in IT for 25 years.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah.
And sometimes IT can be creative. I mean, the programming is creative and, designing systems and, were you fulfilled in your career in IT?
No, well, I was the world's worst programmer.
No, I'm the world's worst.
So I quickly got out of that one. So I was about 6 months programming, and I wasn't very good at it. And then I went into support, and I wasn't any really better at that. But what I did get is exposure to sales and marketing, particularly sales. And I thought that was really interesting. I thought being out and about, meeting people, selling computers or systems, you got an opportunity to travel, and they also drove really nice cars. So that kind of, as 21, I went, wow, that's kind of cool. So I quickly went into sales and marketing and kind of found my groove there.
Cool. So 25 years is a long time to be in one industry.
Mm-hmm.
What happened?
So I really enjoyed it. And over the last, say maybe 2 years, I branched out on my own with another colleague, and we created an IT training company. And for the first year that went very well. And then we started to struggle a little bit. And then when COVID happened, it just changed the landscape, and it has still changed the landscape around how people are going to educate themselves, how teams are going to work, and how industry are going to be more efficient when people are going to be working remotely. So that landscape is completely changing, and we were kind of out of step of it. And so a kind of decision was made that the company needs to be reinvented. And that happened, just after Leo Varadkar closed schools. I think that's a moment in everybody's life. And about 3 or 4 days prior to that, I was in the GP because I had chest pains, and my mum had passed a year previously. So I had, up to that point, had blamed it on grief. I thought, I'm grieving them. I've got heartache. That's what this is. But it was just getting worse and worse and worse. Wasn't getting any better. And I was hounded by my friends to go to the GP. So I went to the GP, and there was a couple of things going on at the same time. I said, I think this is stress. I'm not really that worried about it. So she said, well, we just kind of get to the bottom of it. So she hooked me up to an ECG. And I was sitting there at the side of the bed. I'm sure everybody's been in this situation at some point in their lives. And the nurse stepped out of the room. I was on my own, and I was looking at the clock on the wall. And then I was looking down all these wires. And I said, how did this happen to me? How did I end up here? Like, my mum gets ECGs, so I don't get ECGs. And it was like a moment, it was like a mindful moment of, things have to change. There's something wrong. So anyway, off I went, and happily, the results came back and everything was fine. But 3 days after that, Leo closed the schools. A decision was made on the business that it had to be reinvented. So therefore, it was stopping as it is. And that gave me the opportunity to step back. And as soon as I stepped back, the pains in my chest went and they haven't returned.
Wow.
So I had blamed everything else because there was loads of things and nothing else changed except for that. In fact, things probably got worse because now I'm living in a pandemic, you know, so you think that's the time to get stressed. But it was actually that. And I think anybody who's owned a business understands that you pour your heart and soul into it. And, you know, I grew up in a house where you just worked harder, you know, you're just not working hard enough and then you'll get the results. And it was all consuming. You know, it was 12 to 15 hours a day. It was in your head when you went to bed. It was the first thing you thought about when you woke up. And, you know, it was just became a real struggle. So, yeah.
So most people, when they're faced with the business stopping, you know, because failure is and I'm not even saying it's failure, but it's a difficult thing to countenance that you work so hard on something and it's not going to be your future. And it's that you put your heart and soul into it. So where did the art come back in again? Where did the little green shoots come in? How did that happen?
So the art actually, I never picked up a pencil or a brush. Even when my children were younger, I never really did anything arty with them. They did the arty things and I went, that's lovely. But it was actually when my mum died, I had a lot of spare time, you know, because I would have been with her a lot during the week and I had all this spare time. And there's particularly Sunday afternoons were a particularly quiet moment in our house. So my daughter got a present of a pebble art kit for Christmas because it was a way of distracting her from screens. And so one rainy kind of day Sunday in January, I sat down with her and said, let's do some pebble art. So we did the pebble art and she enjoyed it, but I just loved it. So when we ran out of pebbles, I said, well, we get some more pebbles. And she's like, yeah, no, I'm okay, thanks. And I continued on. Wow. So that became my kind of place where I used to de-stress. So a cup of coffee, I put on really old tunes on a record player at the kitchen table, and I'd take out and I'd cover the kitchen table with pebbles and I'd just make little pictures. And then I'd give them to friends as gifts. And that's
how tell me, how do you mount them in a box, or how does it work?
Yeah, I get a frame and I mount them in a white box frame. There's some samples behind me here, so you can see them. And it's really, the whole point of it is that it's really simple, really accessible. And what I mean by accessible is that, you know, it's the price of flowers, so it's not huge money. And you can buy them, and the whole purpose of it is to mark an occasion and to make you smile. So you buy something because it's a friend, it's an anniversary, you know. The robins are very popular because people really connect with them for people who've passed away.
Are robins a symbol of someone who's departed?
Well, that's what people in Ireland seem to associate it with, and in the UK. I haven't sold beyond that yet, so I don't know whether it's a global thing, but people in Ireland, particularly in the west of Ireland, would have an affinity with robins. Okay. Robins themselves are territorial birds, so if they come into your garden, they tend to own you and own your garden, and they chase away all the other birds. And so then that's when you see that bird coming, you go, jeepers, there's that bloomin', you know, robin. I saw him on Monday and he keeps coming back, or she keeps coming back. And that's why you feel like that robin owns you, or there's some connection between you and the robin. And the amount of people that I speak with, they always say, ever since my mum died, ever since my, you know, friend, my auntie, whatever, passed away, this robin has appeared, and that's where the affinity comes from.
Oh, that's nice. So each piece of art that you create, are they commissioned, or how do they work? How does the story come about?
So there's about 15 that I made at the very beginning, and I put those up to kind of test the market. So I suppose the advantage I have is that I came from the commercial world, and so I understand you know, customer-centric business. I understand the voice of the customer. I understand the idea of, you know, you're testing a market, you're trying to find out what pieces seem to have better connection or people like better than others. So I had created about 15 very different, some landscapes, some robins, some dogs, some cats, some
And
bees.
all with pebbles.
Yeah,
Wow.
all with pebbles and little sticks.
6, okay.
And I put them out there, those 15 in June. The 6th of June is when I started this. And I just very simple Facebook page, Instagram page, and I set up Revolut and PayPal. And I just test the market. And, you know, which is great is that you can get an insight to where people's likes and dislikes are from just even looking at the interactions on the posts and stuff like that. And so I was very easily able to determine what are popular and what's not. So those first 15, or probably wasn't 15 in the end, it was about 6 or 7, kind of became my base. So here, if you're on the site and you want to buy one of these, you just message me, I'll make one up and you pick it up, and it's very straightforward. And then there's kind of ones that are customizations, which would be like, I'd love to get a family of 4, but we have a dog, you know. So you're kind of changing it, you're changing how it's composed slightly. So that's different. That's a customization. And then commission pieces are really special to me because somebody has something in mind, or somebody in mind, or a moment in mind in their heads, and they want to market. And so they talk to you, individually. They would consult with me, and we would come up with a design that really, really kind of hits the note for them. And they would have a lot of influence in that. So I might do up a draft. I just sketch up a draft and lay the stones on it. I wouldn't set anything. Take a photo of it, send it on, and go, you know, does that look right to you? And there might be a couple of changes, so that the customer is really happy with what they get. And then when the final, yes, I am happy with that, I ink it up, set it, and away we go. But along the way of all of that, you get a little bit of an insight into what's going on in their heads, you know, why they're doing what they're doing and the story behind it. And so that's the bit that I fall in love with, because it makes the picture that I'm doing absolutely come alive. And then I can, you know, I feel like they nearly live in my house, and then I have to let them go because they belong to somebody else. They're somebody else's memory on somebody else's wall.
That's amazing. Yeah. So you said before we started, there's a term that you use. You feel often like that you're a fish in a field. Not any more, one supposes. Do you think you're a fish in a pond or a robin in a field? You've been so successful already. There was, in the first 4 weeks, you sold 42 pieces.
Yeah, in the first 4 weeks. Yeah. I'm nearly hitting 100 now, and we're 3 weeks into July.
That is.
So I'll make a big announcement when I hit my 100. But yeah.
So it's actually not only something that satisfies you emotionally and intellectually, but financially, it's worth it.
Yes. Yeah. I started off really with quite a. I guess it's probably so when I stepped back from the business, there was a moment, a couple of weeks of fog, which was spent like everybody else, which was like online classes, gym classes, homeschooling 2 kids, queuing for Tesco's, you know, that's how it was. And I slept a lot. And then when June started coming up, and you know, they say it takes a community to raise a child. I think it takes a community to build a business, because my friends, my network of friends, my own community where I live in Wicklow Town, even the gym I go to Match Fitness in Wicklow Town, and there's a guy who owns it there called Gary Dempsey. He creates an environment that's very, very positive, because there's people who are going to the gym who are trying to make big transformations in their life, you know, with their health or their weight or whatever. And so he deliberately makes the environment very positive. And when you're around positive people, positive things happen to you. You know, you just get inspired and energized by those around you. So by no means was it me on my very own, at the depths of my barrel, getting myself out of it. It wasn't like that at all. It was like I was kind of drifting along, really, kind of like one of those lazy rivers. And it was other people around me who were kind of pushing me forward, saying, of course you can do it, and why wouldn't you give it a go? And all along the way, there was the inner critic, who is that fish in the field person. And she was there when I was in IT, busily telling me that I would never fit in. And now she's transformed herself over to what I'm doing now, which is busily telling me, sure, I never went to college and I don't have a qualification, and I didn't go to college, and I don't even know the language. And, so I still feel like a fish in the field, and I probably will always feel like a fish in the field.
Oh, I think we're going to have to rewire your brain. We're going to have you practicing things like, because my father used to always say, your mouth is a steering wheel of life.
Yeah.
Start saying,
watch your words. Yeah.
And you tell your children that too as well.
Yeah, I do. Don't say that over yourself. Yeah.
I mean, I love the expression. That's why I'm using it. Not that I wish to, demean you or criticize you. The fish in the field is a beautiful expression. But I think you found your forte. And I don't know whether you want to be a fish in a pond or a fish in a babbling brook or a bird in a field or whatever it is. I mean, the stuff is beautiful. Your art forms, is there a name for it?
I don't know. You need to ask somebody who knows.
They're simple, it's lovely. There's the pebbles.
Composition, I suppose. Yeah. How they're composed. Yeah. And deliberately so. I think I've only one piece that has got text written on it. And that's for a very special lady who's going to work in a hospice. And she's a Christian lady, and it's a very big role that she's got to do. So she's the one that holds the hands, and holds the hearts and guides everybody through, the person themselves that are passing on, but also the family and friends. And she was very, I suppose, worried, that it's a big job. Could she take it on? And so there's a piece of scripture in the Bible that really encourages her. And so she asked me to do a commission. It's a peace bird. She sings. So this peace bird sings. And I wrote text I wrote the scripture piece underneath it. That's the only piece that I've written on. I don't tend to write on them because, and loads of people have asked me to, but I just feel it kind of brings an element of clutter to the piece. And the whole idea is that it's very simple and it's natural in design. I mean, some of the skirts that the ladies wear are pebbles, are not pebbles, shells, and each one has a different pattern. And I put one up recently, of Manu's memories. So this was a lady who lost her cat of 20 years, and she was very upset, which I totally get because I have two beautiful cats myself. And she wanted something to have Manu play with her children that she could look at and smile. So one of the little girls is wearing a skirt, and the skirt's beautiful. It's a shell, and people came back and commented saying, "I love that skirt myself." And I was like, yeah, no, so would I. And it's nature's natural pattern. And I just thought, you don't need to mess around with that. You just let it shine itself. And it's just gorgeous.
Wow. I think it's amazing. I think COVID, as I was saying to you at the start, although it's obviously a horrendous disease and pandemic and all the horrendous things that go with it. But when I hear your story, it's lovely. You've lit up my day. It's just, your face is lit up for starters anyway. You're so passionate about it. But it's just, wow, it's a moment in time that you mightn't have had otherwise.
No.
Back I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And you will never regret it. You may never be a millionaire from it, but you will never regret it.
No, I think it'll always be, I think it'll always be a part of me. I never let it go. And I think what's really great is that, all the people around me who encouraged me, like my friends, I need to say Brona Gunn and Denise, they were amazing. They really believed in me. And so you need to have a good crew, but it is all inside you. You just need to let it out. And and the amount of people that I've spoken to recently, very recently, who are all having this conversation in silence, which is, I was on the N11 for 4 hours every day in that car park. I'm run ragged. It's full day work, coming home, running the kids around for training matches, GA matches. I'm out back at Beyond. The weekend comes and you're catching up on your housework. And so you might get a window of 3 hours on a Sunday afternoon that you can actually live your life. And then COVID happened, and all of a sudden everybody was given back 4 hours of their day because they're not sitting in a car. And work was less demanding because, people in the business world were now understanding that you had a family and you had other commitments, and they had to kind of work around you. And instead of measuring everybody by how many hours they're sitting at their desk, they started to measure people with, well, did you get that report done? So it was like measuring outputs, rather than did you spend 8 hours sitting at your desk, or did you get the report done? Got the report done, great, off you go. So everybody's mindset changed. And the amount of people are saying to me, I can't go back there. I can't go back to that pace. I'm worn out with it, and I'm not going to do it. And I'm going to ask my employer now, can I work 3 days from home? I think I'm going to start doing things like saying, listen, what do you need me to do? What do you want me to get done today? And just get it done. And I'll get up at 6 and I'll get it all done by 2. And then I'm out with the kids at the beach, taking a call and I need to do. So it's like everybody is having these silent conversations. And I'm saying silent because they're not vocalized, beyond little clusters. But I think there is going to be a national narrative is going to start coming in, shortly, when people realize that I'm not going back there. There's no quality. We only get one life, and we need to make the best of it what we can. And there are families that need attention, and they need your time, and they need your presence, and that's what's important.
Yeah, so. I couldn't say anything better, and in fact, I'm not going to. I'm going to stop there because it's absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much indeed.
Oh, I'm red.
Wow. So if people want to find you, it's Lifestones.
Yeah, Lifestones. My sister-in-law, Rosaline, named the business. Because when she saw the little piece, I made her a little piece, and she said, oh my gosh, it's like as if you're bringing the stones to life.
Lifestones.
So that's where Lifestones come from.
And is it a website or a Facebook page or both?
It's a Facebook page at the moment and Instagram. Yeah, so it's I think you can see me under Lifestones 20 in Facebook, and it's Lifestones 2020 in Instagram.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time today. It's just, go and look at them. They're absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much indeed, Aisling.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you to Marlena Murphy producing, and Gavin Dowd on sound. And that's all for me for Wicklow Good News today. Until next time, be good, be safe, and keep on helping others.